And my duty tonight is to introduce one of my favorite people who is going to be the host for the evening. And she doesn't really need any introduction, but I'm still going to say a couple of things about Betsy Chafin. So Betsy is the founder and first executive director of Spring Island Trust. She's also co-founder of the Low Country Institute, which was a separate organization which is now integrated into the Spring Island Trust, which is all about regional conservation and outreach. And beyond all of these sort of biology type things, she's also a renowned artist and photographer. And she's brought that influence in a big way to Spring Island. So she kept arts at the center of the community. I'm sure everybody in here has spent time in the art barn and you know the history there, and it's a great way for the community to engage. But beyond that, she's founded the Visiting Artist Program, which was a way to bring not only notable artists to the island, but to build an arts collection, which has been the Trust Art Collection, which you see and enjoy all over the island today. She's also a passionate lifelong learner, and I have been told she took the Master Naturalist program twice. So she has a formidable amount of knowledge about all things nature on top of all of these things. So simply put, Betsy Chafin is exceptional, and she has a great amount of influence in all things Spring Island, and is the perfect person to host this tonight. So let's all welcome Betsy.
Great. And Andy Jones, thank you. You're always generous, and I really appreciate it. And thank you all for coming. It's really fabulous to see this many people interested in what this early culture was like. The slides that you were seeing were from the 90s. Some of the appetizers would have been very similar to food you would have gotten at the Walker House. So this year does mark the 35th anniversary of Spring Island, the Spring Island Trust. And our intent this evening is to give you a flavor, a feel of what that early culture was like. And we'll be doing that through the slides. Then we have a short video, a 6-minute video, and then we have a fabulous selection of storytellers who will be telling their stories, their memories. Now, one thing, whose idea was this? In this case, Randall Perkins and Michael Garcia. We have them both. So, just a little bit of housekeeping. We've got some copies of Lucille Hayes' book, Spring Island Plantation, A Remembrance. And we also have this Spring Island Inner Office Memorandum, place names from December 17th, 1998. This is unedited. And we only have a few copies up here, but it'll also be posted on the website. But to give you a feel for what is in here, here's Pole Creek Lane as an example. The marsh between Spring Island and Kalawasi, specifically the section nearest the southern end of both islands, is known as Pole Creek Marsh. This name originates from the fact that Colonel William Cox ran his phone line between the two islands at this point using a series of poles. Okay, so we are going to start with the video, and then after the video, we'll get right directly into the panel discussion.
It really was an island wilderness paradise. This had been for centuries a low-country cotton plantation. And the forests had been left completely alone. So it really was a low-country forest nature preserve, if you will. And then you had the history of what the Walker family had done, preserving it as a quail hunting preserve. There was always somebody who would come here to go on a quail hunting expedition and come back and say, "Do you have any idea how beautiful this is and what you could do with this?" But the Walker family had a sense of preserving it just the way it was. You felt the spirit of the place. We would bring financial institutions here and ride them around, and they'd say, "Oh, look at this deep water. How many lots, and what are these lots going to be worth?" And we'd say, "This is going to belong to everybody." Our mentor, Charles Frazier, taught us, take the best you have and give it to everybody. So it was, how do you not only protect what Mother Nature has given us here, but how do you evolve a community that is going to embrace it as well? It would need to be with total respect for what's here, so that we attracted people who shared that respect and desire to continue it being the way it is. What we've got to do is see if we can get a group of founding members in here. We made a list and went to New Canaan, Darien, Stanford, Dallas, Denver, Cincinnati, and put a group of founding members together. So they each gave us $300,000. Of course, they were taking a chance on us. An island with no bridge, and you're asking us to put up $300,000 for a lot. And once we had that group of founding members, we told them that it's your obligation to help us find your neighbors. It all started with member get a member. And we said to our founding members, "Okay, you are now the marketing team." And I'd pack up shrimp and oysters and go to their homes and their clubs, and they would get people together, and we'd make a presentation, and then we'd invite people to come down here. They'd stay in the Walker House. Then we'd put them on a horse-drawn wagon and take them from Walker Landing down to the gazebo and do an oyster roast and crab boil. And the whole thing was giving them a sense of what was here. The interesting beginning evolution of a sense of community here is that everybody who came here in the beginning came on the recommendation of somebody they trusted. And once they got here, they sensed that responsibility, and that continued. It was the good Lord and Mother Nature who created this. And we were very blessed to attract a group initially of wonderful founding members who believed in our mission, who then brought others, who brought others, who brought others. I would say to the current members, thank you for believing in what is here and wanting to be part of it. And thank you for agreeing to be part of the caretaking of what's here for generations to come. And it will really be in your hands to attract the next generation. And we, frankly, need to thank those early members who believed so strongly and helped create the sense of responsibility and sense of pride for what's here.
So, here we go. This is, we've got the mics, we've got a mic here. Okay, so Sally Swift right here. Yes, she is a master naturalist. Sally has been on the HRB board for 2 different terms and then served as chair of that. She also was on the Spring Island Trust Board for 2 terms, served as chair of that, and that, when she was chair, that's when the transition between Chris Marsh and Andy Jones was taking place. That was a pretty important time. She's done everything from help revive the tradition of new members party at the barn, to being on the fishing committee, trail monitor. She's done it all. You and Bill became founding members, and I'll have to say it has always been gratifying to have a member of the Walker family that wanted to have a home here. Billy Crossman, a true avid sportsman, active in anything that has to do with hunting and fishing. He's been on the fishing committee. But you and your wonderful wife, Allison, raised your family here. I find that quite remarkable. And if you have not already seen it, Allison's exhibit, her beautiful exhibit at the Art Barn, will be up for several more weeks. So, Billy Crossman here, Billy Sampson, golfer. You have certainly played a major role in developing golf on Spring Island since you became head pro in 1995 and then director of golf in 2010. And during all that, you also managed to marry Wendy, who does amazing. Dick Schmaltz, right here. Dick has been on the Spring Island Trust Board 2 different times. He also has been on the PLA Board 2 different times. He has served with the investment committee on the trust, and he happened to mention that he was a master naturalist dropout. Down at the other end is Ed Mitchell, and you are one of the last 2 founding members that are here. You did that to complete the master naturalist. That's good. So you've been on the investment committee, you've been long range planning committee, Spring Island Trust solicitor. But most importantly, you were chair of the Low Country Institute when it merged with the Spring Island Trust, became under the umbrella of the Spring Island Trust. And that leadership was so important for that to happen, and your leadership was significant in that. So we're going to start with some questions, and we've got this bell here. So, can you hear me okay? Schmaltz actually asked for the bell. He said, so, Sally, your parents, Charlie and Sally Lee, were early members here, and what brought them to Spring Island?
Well, that's easy. It was Billy Crossman. So Billy ran into my mother and said, "Mrs. Lee, I have found a place for you." Our families grew up together in New Jersey, and he knew that my mom was a keen birder. Well, as far as their children knew, my parents weren't looking for a place. But they happened to be not long after that in Charleston, and they decided to venture down to see this Spring Island that Billy was so excited about. And frankly, they were smitten. They were like two honeymooners when they called us. And I think they put the deposit down that day. And so that was in early '97, and that was my first introduction to Spring Island. So before they got right to the business of building their house, but in the meantime, we all came down to visit, and we'd stay in the yellow cottages and the tabby cottages, and there was a lot going on. And then once their house was built, we would come down for family holidays. But back then, there were bird walks and owl prowls and oyster roasts and holiday golf scrambles, and there was so much to do. And the Spring Island members were already pretty busy, as you all are. And there were member-initiated programs like bluebird monitoring and the Native Plant Project. Anyway, it was just a lot of fun. And so then we caught the bug. And pretty soon after that, bought our own lot on Upper Goose Pond. And at the time, the pond had been recently, that was in early 2000, dug, and it was completely unvegetated. But that was an early lesson on how quickly things grow around here, because Mother Nature quickly took care of that. Anyway, we had a young family at the time, so we knew we wouldn't be here that often, but we came as often as we could, and then we built our own house pretty quickly. And I think we maybe celebrated our first Christmas in the house in 2003. And anyway, I have never looked back on that decision to locate here. But I also you mentioned memories, I just wanted to say a word about trust talks. So this is a long-standing tradition. And I remember Thursday nights going to what is now known as the Trust Barn. It was formerly a quail, it's essentially a repurposed and refurbished quail barn. But, and we would gather on the porch there for cocktails, always the pre-talk cocktails. And I think that was probably my first introduction to sand gnats, if you've ever spent any time down there outside the Trust Barn. And there would be Beverly or some other wonderful staff member with the dinner menus. And if you planned to return to the River House for dinner, they would take your order. And then we'd go into the talk, and Beverly would drive that back to the River House. And after the talk, we'd drive down there and it'd be ready for us. And it was really quite remarkable. So I just wanted, Andy Jones mentioned the art program, and then I know I'm running short on time. And the reason that Trust Barn, for many of you remember it as the Art Barn. Well, it was the Art Barn because that's where the studio art programs were. And the original mission of the Trust, the art program came under that. It was under the Trust umbrella. And he alluded to the visiting artists. The sense was that in order to capture and promote and celebrate this sense of place and the history and the natural beauty of Spring Island, Betsy initiated a visiting artist program, and things have grown from there. So.
We really had a desire to have original art hanging in all the public spaces. And, and we were able to make that happen. And I think that all members enjoy that. Looking around, the art is so varied, and it is from people who have come here, look at Spring Island, and then interpreted that in their own style. But Sally, you've played such a major role with different organizations. As you look back from 2025, how do you see, what are some of your thoughts about how Spring Island has evolved?
Well, I think Jim touched on a lot of it in the video, and I think it has evolved the way it has. The spirit and the heart of Spring Island has not faded, and I think the sense of a strong community and the natural beauty and a shared value system persists to this day. And I think a lot of that had to do with what Jim was talking about, and it really was the forethought and careful planning and a well-articulated vision that is responsible for a lot of it. And then that vision brought those 37 original founders, and they went out and found others, but really through the years, I think we owed a huge debt of gratitude to the many, many members who have continued to steward that vision. And I have to say, for me, it remains an enriching and sustaining place that I am really happy to call home.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sally, because I think volunteerism is such an important characteristic of Spring Island, and you know, Sally pretty much personifies that. So we're going to move right along to Lucille Hayes, and Lucille, Elisha, am I saying that right?
You said Elijah.
Elisha.
It's Elisha.
Thank you, that southern accent went bad. Bought Spring Island in 1964. And can you kind of tell us how he got to the Low Country from New York?
Well, he was gone 40 years in World War II, and we were living in New York City. He came back, and his parents were on Long Island, and my mother's also. So we moved out to Long Island, and they joined two clubs, Piping Rock Club and Creek Club, that had shooting ranges. And so he left to shoot, so he went there and met other people who belonged to it, and they all became friends. And so my brain just went.
Well, I think you're on the right track though.
Yeah.
So he enjoyed shooting, and that
He
must...
enjoyed shooting.
And then,
Those other people on Long Island had plantations down here. This Low Country, the road to Hilton Head was 2 lanes and there was nothing on it, nothing in the 60s. So he said, I want to go down and find myself a place as good as you've got, he said to his hunting buddies. So like the Pratts on Good Hope and others. So he came down and he found Spring Island. And it was abandoned for 20 years. Nobody had lived here, was totally overgrown, and he loved it.
thank you. You know, what he did to the land once he bought it, was putting in the road system.
The road system and the ponds, oh my goodness.
Right.
All the ponds he put in, because he wanted to have ducks and go duck hunting in the morning, and then everybody would go back and have breakfast, and then they'd go quail hunting, and then they'd have lunch down at the gazebo, and then they'd quail hunt in the afternoon. And then duck hunts, yes, at the Tabby Road. Oh my goodness.
Lucille, you know, we all know what this is.
Right.
Can you tell us where this came from?
I wear the original here that my dad designed right after he bought the island. It's got 4 birds. And when the Chapins bought it, they said, do you mind if we use your logo? And I said, why don't you change it a bit for the development and leave us with our original? So they did a perfect job. Took out the 2 small birds, the dove and the quail, and left the turkey and the mallard, and then of course the palm tree and the crab. And that's perfect on everybody's shirt and everything, and ours would have been too busy on all of that. So it's perfect the way it is. Thank you, Betsy.
I got one more story
St. Francis.
As St. Francis. Would you
Yeah.
tell us about St. Francis?
Yes. My dad was a devout Catholic, and so he wanted a holy place on the island. And he loved St. Francis. He'd been to Italy numerous times. Took me once to Assisi, and so he decided to have St. Francis. He imported that pink marble from Italy. He was incredible. And then he had a priest come out from St. Peter's in town and bless it after it was finished, and we had Catholic prayers there and everything. I don't know if he ever had a mass there, but that's what he was planning to do. So it's like a huge outdoor cathedral to have St. Francis at the top there, looking down the Avenue of Oaks to the wonderful Tabby ruins. It's so perfect. So I'm thrilled he did that. It's special.
You know, thank you for being a founding member. Thank you for leaving us with this wonderful book that you have written, and the way that the Walker family, the Walker legacy for creating the Low Country shooting plantation here is that sense of place is what we fell in love with when we first came here.
Right.
And, you know, remnants of that still remain.
Well, it's a miracle. When we put it on the market, the first people that came along were going to put 3,000 houses here. And I said to our trustees, please don't do that to it. And thank God they didn't. And then the Chapins came along, and they have not ruined it. You're all here, and it's so beautiful. And you don't drive around and don't see the houses. And I wouldn't be here if it had been ruined. So I thank you both so much for saving it.
Right on into Billy Crossman.
Oh dear.
You have got one of the great stories about how you found Spring Island.
Here we go. I used to come down here every year with the same foursome to play golf. My family had a cabin, hunting cabin, just outside of Savannah. And we'd go down to Sea Island, we do this, we do that. And one of the guys in the foursome said, hey, I got special permission to go play Kalawasi. I know someone who knows someone who knows someone who just bought it. That's a close connection. Okay, let's go. So we get to Kalawasi, and back in those days, we would play 36 holes. And this is probably March, April. You know, the golf courses up in northwest New Jersey weren't even open. So we come down, and we're on the 17th hole, and my friend who knows someone who happens to be Jim Chafin, and he doesn't know directly, and he goes, I forgot to tell you, they want to take us out for lunch. But yeah, I'm 34 years old. Free lunch. This is a really nice friend you kind of know. So all of a sudden, at the end of the 17th, we get to the 18th hole, and there's a Lincoln Continental, white one, I remember, sitting there waiting to take us to lunch. So, yes, free lunch. Takes us down to Chessie Landing, and then there's a boat. And we're kind of going, okay, where are we going? Well, we're going to Spring Island. Where's that? Well, off we went. Of course, we're looking at our watches, and we get to Spring Island, and the only thing there was really the boat ramp. And Gordon Mobley picks us up in his Jeep. At this point, we know there's no more 18 holes. And then we get to the only house, really, that was the Walker house, and we get there, and there's an incredible spread of food. We're all 34 years old, and we're sitting there going, this is the nicest friend of a friend of a friend. I mean, why is he feeding us like this? So then we go, oh, we want to show you Spring Island. Okay, we're a little slow from northwestern New Jersey, so we're going, oh, I think they want to sell us real estate. So we go off, and everything was dirt. There was no paved roads. So we head down the Oak Alley that went to nowhere, but it was certainly a road. And then we ended up at the ruins, so there was at least something to look at, and that was cool. And we head on out, and they say, this is where the 17th hole is going to be. It's going to be our signature hole. We're crashing through palmetto bushes. We're going, oh wow, we're polite. We're from Northwest New Jersey, we're polite. And so next thing you go, you gotta see our waterfall. We know all about waterfalls in Northwest New Jersey. So we go out and we see this waterfall, and I honestly think there was someone behind the bush that turned the spigot on. We saw the waterfall, we are polite, we went, yeah! So, they didn't have a whole lot, and then we went out to the gazebo, which was there, and it was incredible. The gazebo was out there. How far it is to get the electricity out there, I still wonder. And we saw that, and we came back, but I was smitten by the beauty and the nature of this island. And I said, well, maybe when I'm my age now, I'll buy a piece of property. Long and the short of the story was, we come back, this was 1990. 92, we come back, and we know someone also who knows Jim Chafin. And this guy was the name of Jim Lennon, and he was a founding member. Same foursome, different guy, is a cousin to Jim Lennon. So we go, oh, we could go play Spring Island. And we couldn't believe it could be built in the 2 years or so since we were last here. We got there, we show up, it was the first day that the temporary golf clubhouse with the circular pillars was open. Not a single light on. Electricity hadn't been connected, but it was the first day they opened it. And Craig Lehman was the pro at the time, and he's just stuffing the shelves. They had two caddies that looked like they came from Augusta, white suits and all that. April day, 74 degrees, beautiful. No, we're the only people there the entire day. We played 36 holes. And I just, they had these incredible journals that they would send us. And I fell in love with Spring Island. And I happened to have a business in Savannah that I had the opportunity to actually move to Savannah. So I asked my lovely wife, Allison, I said, would you be willing to live in a place out in the middle of nowhere with our two children, who were 2 and 4 and 5, and she said, let's do it. And it was really, and because of that one introduction to that one round of golf, because of Allison and I, and we have a lovely network of friends, we've counted just short of 30 people, either directly or indirectly, that bought property here on Spring Island. Some aren't here today, but some are. Sally's one. And it's just been, and I often say, because it's really remarkable, and this happens to people, there's certain things that happen in one's life, that unplanned or whatnot, that can actually change a lot of people's other lives, and that's certainly that one golf round. And it turns out we could have called 1-800-Kalawasi because it was open to the public. I'm sure people would have found their way here, but there's certainly a lot of people.
In telling that fabulous story, you've managed to also answer the other 2 questions. But we have to thank you for being one of the best salesmen Spring Island. So we're going to move right on to Billy Sampson. And, you know, Billy, you and I were talking about that first golf house with the, for me, it's one of the most elegant buildings on Spring Island with those circular brick columns. And, you know, those early days, that would have been about 93, right on, you came in 95. So give us that kind of flavor for what golf was like then, what it was like to be a part of that golf house scene, some of the characters who were working there. Give us that flavor.
For one, I'm very honored just to be a part of this. Being up here with them, my story is going to be nothing compared to what they can tell you, especially Mrs. Hayes. I'll tell you one quick story about Mrs. Hayes, though. So Wendy worked at Sanctity Head years ago, and then she came to work here, and one of the first members she saw was Lucille Hayes, who's been a longtime member of Sanctity Head. And they knew each other, and it was like, oh, here we are together. Coming in 95, I was working at Sea Pines. I'd only been out on the island one time. And That was to play golf, played 18 holes, coming onto the island, didn't know where to go. I drove down the Ocala, which I wasn't supposed to, didn't know where the road went, finally played. There was two of us, we were the only two people on the golf course playing that day. And the gentleman that was the head golf professional at that time was a guy named Darren Howard. And Darren and I played high school golf against each other. And when we got finished, I fell in love with the island. I said, Darren, if you're ever looking for an assistant, call me. I'd love to come here. And that was in October of '94. And he calls me the end of February and said, I'm looking for an assistant, let's meet. We didn't interview out here. Two guys from East Tennessee, we interviewed at Cracker Barrel on Hilton Head, over gravy and biscuits, and that's true. And Darren offered me the job. I had to make a decision. I'd been offered 2 other jobs, and both were head professional positions. I was not ready for that at that time in my life anyway, but I really wanted to come here. And Darren said, I don't know how long we're going to be there because back home in East Tennessee, they're building a new golf course. If you come and work your tail off, they may promote you. And I was like, okay. So I was at Sea Pines, left Sea Pines to come here, which, come to find out, that's where Jim Chafin got his start, Jim Light. Dr. Peter Lamont, he was part of that early time over there. We had so many people that worked here. Ellen Savage, she worked at Sea Pines. Bob Masteller, he was a Sea Pines guy. So I knew the flavor and I knew the culture, which made it a lot easier for me. And I came to work here. It was so much fun, and worked with Rosie Speaks, and Rosie was just a piece of work. She ran the whole golf operation. Even though she was our cook, she actually told us what to do. She would fix us lunch if she wasn't mad at us that day. If she was mad at you that day, you probably went without lunch. Her son Terrence, we taught him how to throw a Frisbee. He had never thrown a Frisbee in his life. He was about 12 years old at the time, and now he's a bank president up in New Jersey. Beverly would work on Rosie's days off, so now you have 2 huge personalities that covered both of us. And Abe would come, and he, anytime we had anything down our way, Abe was our bartender. Abe was just a wonderful person. William Fripp, he was in charge of all the hunting, but when we did hunting on the island, it was still when I first got here. So the dogs, Rosie would open the windows, cook some bacon, and next thing you know, dogs would start showing up at the golf shop. And so William would have to come get all the dogs. So we got to know William very well. And the other thing, though, that I would say, the biggest part of, and it's still today, but when I first started, I didn't know what to expect about how the membership would be. How would you engage with a guy that had never worked at a private facility? I grew up at a public golf course, the only golf course in town. I'd never been at a place like this in my life. And I was received. And since then, Darren did leave, October of 1996. Mr. Chafin gave me a chance. I was interim. I messed up so many times. I had 2 weeks to prep for the member guest in the fall. I made so many mistakes. I will tell y'all one mistake I made. I forgot, now I will not say the member's name, I forgot to announce his wife as one of the flight winners. I was so nervous being on stage. And her husband came to me and let me have it. And I went to Mr. Chafin and I said, I really messed up. And he goes, oh, no, I'll show you how we fix this. He gets on stage and he goes, I just want everybody to be quiet for a second. We have one person that's played in all of our member guests, and she won the flight today, so we wanted to do a special award. So he covered that. And then 2 weeks later, Dr. Lamont shows up in my office, and he goes, I just want you to know before they can call you, I get to be the first to tell you, you're promoted. So that's how I got
You've got to give one more story here, and I would love for you, you spent so much time with Arnold Palmer, Ed C. Could you give us your favorite Arnold Palmer story?
I would love to. I'll give you, if I have a second. I only have one, I'll tie it all in together. But the last time I brought Mr. Palmer onto the island, it was after we did the redo in 2012. And everybody was trying to figure out, where's Arnold Palmer going to fly into? And I said, I'll handle it. I'm going to have him fly into Hilton Head. Nobody wanted to drive to Hilton Head in the morning. So I knew I got to drive him out here, because it's right next to my house. So I go to the airport, pick up Mr. Palmer. We're driving out, and we're talking about Spring Island, and he's telling me stories. And it was really fun to hear these early time stories when he was building the golf course. And we started to come through Kalawasi. We come onto Spring Island. I was like, Mr. Palmer, if you remember, down to the left's the Walker House. And we start coming around. I said, okay, now we're getting ready to go into Live Oak Forest. And he looked at me and he goes, bro, I know where I am now, I'm home. And I was like, oh. He goes, but I've got to see 3 people. He goes, make sure I get to see Jim Chafin. And he goes, is Ernie Ransom still alive? And I was like, oh yeah, he lives right over there. And he goes, and Beverly, I've got to see her. So we made that happen that day, and I have a picture with Mr. Palmer and Beverly, and both of them just mouth wide open laughing. I have a picture that has Ernie Ransom, Mr. Palmer, and myself, and matter of fact, I printed that and I signed that for Ernie Ransom to give him to his house, which was funny because that was a joke. And I gave him actually one that wasn't signed by me, it was signed by Arnold Palmer. And I went to his house and he had the one that I signed up. And the one other real quick story, and this is quick. My father passed away in 2000, and the 2 people that really became really strong in my life was Dr. Peter Lamont and Ed C. And Ed and Doc, anytime I had any questions or anything, they were always there for me. And also, the membership here took such good care of us as a family. Our son was a preemie when he was going to have to quit work. And they, you all, allowed us to bring our son to work for the first year of his life. So that's why I've spent half of my life here on Spring Island.
You are one of the most senior staff people here, and you personify giving back, and you do that both to members and to staff and to your community. And anybody who has taken a lesson with you, you try to make us into the very best golfer you can. So thank you. So Dick Schmaltz, okay, I tell you what, I think that you would love to talk to us about the culture of Spring Island.
Right. Took 10 minutes of practice to get that going. So, you're talking to a guy who dropped out of Master Naturalist, whose first English theme at Colby was F minus minus. Bear with me. The story, the personal story is, as I said in the trust note I put out, Joan and I came here in 1996. Actually, we came here with a golf group in 95. And the same experience, we played around the golf. And I went home to Joan, we were staying at Sea Pines, and said, I found the place we're going to retire. This is Friday. And Joan said, you're crazy. I said, no, Saturday morning, this is 1995 in the fall, we're driving back to the airport, let's drive in. Somehow we got through security, drove them around and said, Jesus, this is like Maine where we have our summer house. Came back, April of 1996. I'm gonna talk for 3 minutes, God damn it. So we came back in 1996, we arrived on Thursday, Friday morning, they take us for a tour of the island. We say, geez, there are 3 areas that we're very interested in. Up that way, over that way, down that way. We asked the realtor, you're the expert, what do you think we really should be interested in? And he said, the gazebo is there for a reason. And you should be very interested in that area. So Friday, we signed on the line. I said to Joan, it's only an option. We're buying raw land. This place is a dream. There aren't many houses. The risk is high. So we'll buy an option. Second part of the story. 1996, we come down in the fall. All of these, all Beverly and the food and the Walker House. We come back in 97. We start building in 98. So what was an option turned into a serious investment of an emerging, risky real estate development. I'd like to take you through how risky it was and what the past, how we got to where we are today. So I sat down, in 96, I'm still working, 99, I'm retiring. I come down here in the winter, what am I going to do? And there were just wonderful people here. And you got a sense of the rhythm of the community as you spent more time here. And I said, wow, I want this place to be a place that our grandchildren are going to love. That's what I really thought about, and that kind of permeated the spirit of this community. So what did that mean? It meant that I decided to go into the governance of the island. So I was lucky enough to, did we elect people for some of those boards? I'm not sure. But anyway, I got on all those boards. And let me tell you the stories. This thing starts in 1999. Challenges. You're in a happy place now. Challenges then. First challenge. We buy in 91 lots. How would you like to have 500 homes on this island instead of 400? I don't think you'd like this island as much. Big, right, long-term decision. Second challenge. Create LCI to help in the financing to donate those 91 lots. So we got a little tax deal. It was so damn brilliant. Hey, IRS people here, please shut off. I'm going to jail. And then the next event was the purchase of a good part of Spring Island in the early 2000s from the developers. You know, they've got to move on. They've got to get capital out. And the members really want to start owning the place to have it more in keeping with what the members really want. Another big decision, where are you going to get the dough? How's it going to work? How do you value the properties? Very amenable transaction with the developers and the members. 3, rumors are circulating. This never got public, but we had some of Crossman's friends come down, CEOs from New York, etc. And they would come down with the corporate mentality, why the hell are there 2 boards on Spring Island? It doesn't make any sense. The trust was a very small, one individual entity with a very low profile. And so we got on, a few of us, and said, if these 2 entities don't have their separate identities, the POA could build a skyscraper on trust property. And we don't want that. So a huge decision, subtly in the background to some of these movers and shakers, was you don't understand what Spring Island's about. You need both those two entities. Next one.
Wait 1 second.
Already?
Wait, no,
Okay.
you've got a little bit longer, but I
Okay.
do want to get Ed Mitchell before it gets to be the bewitching hour.
Okay, the sports complex, the most controversial thing that ever happened on Spring Island. If the vote was just above 55%, there was all kinds of reasons why it shouldn't have passed. It was the most controversial, and now it's the most popular facility on the island. Financial chaos, 2007, 2008, the markets crashed right across from where we live on the Collin River. Memberships at Berkeley Hall, Belfair, Collin River, they're going for $1. $1. We have 93 properties for sale on this island. 25% of the island is on sale. You gotta give me one more minute.
That's
I won't go any more on that one, but that's all. The next one, the move to one membership. We had 2 memberships, and it was kind of divisive in a way, the social membership and the golf membership. We went to a membership. People were starting to think we should do cafeteria. You pay for each thing you're gonna be involved with. That doesn't work long term. Guess what? All of these occurred within a 10-year time span. I mean, major challenges all in that era. Okay, I'm almost done. Why has Spring Island succeeded? Culture. In the investment business, I learned, yes, you can have figures don't lie and liars don't figure. With technology, you can fool around with figures. But you can't fool around with the technology of a company. And that's the key to a strength of an organization. What carried Spring Island through all these challenges was culture. What do I mean by culture? Think long term. Think about the decisions that have resonated so well, the rec center, how it still functions. People come now for the model. The nature center, we're talking 25-year-old, 20-year-old structures, and they're all in. They're places you want to be. Second reason, a commitment to first-class amenities. First-class facilities, first-class pros. This is important that we stay committed to first-class amenities. Third one, respect your neighbors. So how do I define respect? Well, a priest actually gave me the story. The Bible says love your neighbor as yourself. And the priest said, Dick, that's the Bible. Let me give you my catch on that. You don't have to love your neighbor. You don't have to like your neighbor. But I hope you respect your neighbor.
Bravo!
The last one, which has already been mentioned, this place doesn't work without volunteerism. So keep those 4 cultures in mind. And my message to you, especially you newer ones, make this a place, make sure you continue to make this place where your grandchildren want to come.
Dick, honestly, you have really believed in the culture of Spring Island, and you have also supported conservation throughout the Low Country. So truly, many thanks.
Ed has 30 seconds.
No, you have 15. Let's see. So, let's just kind of start. You literally are one of 2 founding members, and kind of tell us what brought you to Spring Island.
I did a little research before I was asked to do this, and I did check my founding documents. They were dated 28 June 1990. And so, thinking back about that time and the time I first discovered the concept of Spring Island was when Jim Chafin and I were serving together on a volunteer board at the University of Virginia, and as we were gathering at our first meeting, getting to know one another, the word was out that I was in the presence of a big-time real estate developer. And I said, gee, I'd like to get to know this guy. So we met and we hit it off, and I said, well, you understand real estate business? He said, yeah. He says, oh, what are you doing now? He said, well, I've got this little project with all developments off the coast of South Carolina, and we're just getting going on it. And I said, well, that sounds great. I live in Atlanta, only 5 hours away. We'll fly down, Ginger and I'll fly down, take a look at it. This is 1990, okay? Spring of 1990. And so we fly to Savannah, we come up here, rent a car down, which is now Argent Road, John Smith, and we find this place, and Jim said, I'll pick you up in the boat. I said, boat? Anything about a boat. But if we did, we got on the Gobbler One. And so we were on the Chichessie Landing. We came down Chichessie Creek to the Walker Landing, and Jimmy's on the radio. He says, Gobbler 1 to Gobbler 2, I got a couple of live ones. The Mitzels are here. And I don't know who Gobbler 2 was, but I think it was Gordon Wobbly. And so we come into the Walker Landing here, we come off the boat, and I step on the shore and I look around, and I said, real estate development. And I said, when I think development, you know, like maybe early Hilton had houses going up, roads, golf courses under construction, swimming pool, tennis schools, I look out there, there's nothing. There are a couple of cottages that are not part of the real estate development. And there's an old red barn there with a couple of mules meandering around, and it was in better days. And my wife turned and looked at me and she says, that look, why did you bring me here? So, well, to continue on, the next step was to go to the Walker House, which of course was central to Spring Island for everything at that point in time. There's no river house, no golf house, no nothing house, and no roads. And so we check in, and it was also the guest quarters, the dining room, the living room, the gathering room, and there's a ping pong table in the garage, which at that time was the only offered activity on it. So checked in, Jimmy Gordon Mobley's name was not mentioned, but he was Mr. Walker's overseer. He was a legend in his own mind, and he had a great story to tell. He was a wonderful personality, and he transitioned from being overseer and doer of all things on Spring Island to a member of the Chafin Light real estate team. So Jim and Gordon and Ginger and I are out on the deck in the evening with a cocktail overlooking, and Jim starts into the great tapestry, the magical, mystical experience of the undone finished tapestry. Now, I'm looking at him, I'm not seeing any tapestry. All I'm seeing is frickin' jungle. And in the meantime, while Jim was waxing eloquently about the mystical experience of Spring Island, these frickin' bugs are eating. I said, Jimmy, there's something, there's something. And I'll never forget, he turned and he looked and he says, oh, ha, ha. He says, those things, they're only here a couple of weeks out of the year. So I knew I was in trouble. Anyway, we're running short on time. This will quickly. This is early on, and there weren't many people here. And one of the great features of the Walker House was the communal dining, and it was boarding house style. Everybody sat around a big table. Nobody knew anybody, but at the end of dinner, everybody knew everybody. Friendships were easily made. It was fun. It was joyful. It was a wonderful experience. And There was one incident, there was a naturalist, Bruce Lampright, who was one of the first guys here, and a terrific guy. He had a pet otter, named Okatee. And Okatee had the run of the river house. You know, he'd be out there gathering up little scraps during dinner and stuff. And he would, you could feed him, and he would even let you pet him, and then he'd bite the hell out of you. So, but anyway, I'll finish up this story about the why we happen to be here at Spring Island. So, after the mystical experience lecture, and next day, Saturday morning, we get up. Jimmy picks us up in the Jeep, and he rides us all around the island, takes us all the iconic spots that have already been discussed. And then he's going to take me to my founder's lot. It's been picked out just for me, and it's the only one left. He takes us into this lot, we're up in trees and vines and bush and stuff, and finally find a clearing, opens up, it's a beautiful view of the marsh. I said, this is really nice. So Gordon, of course, his sidekick's with him. He says, okay, and he's again looking at this fabulous lot, and you're gonna be so happy with it. And he said, now Gordon, I want you to walk back to the end of the property line, okay? And we just want to let them know what this lot looks like. So, I mean, the size of it is. This is a 5.5 acre lot. Well, it's just a big lot. So anyway, Gordon dutifully disappears into the bush. And he's gone for a little while. And then he ducked behind a tree next to me. Jake goes, you there then, Gordon? Not yet, Jake. Okay. All right, well, let's know when you get there. Well, a little bit longer, he said, how about now, Gordon? You there? Oh, not there yet, Jake. So I'm starting to think, Jim, you and I went to the same school. I mean, come on. Anyway, finally, Gordon gets to the end of the lot, and it's a big lot. And I'm thinking, reflecting afterwards, I said, you know, he would never walk that line widewise, lengthwise of it. Anyway, bottom, I guess the short story, long story short, we get home that weekend, and I think about it, and I said, you know, Ginger, I think this would be a good investment. She said, you're crazy. There was a benefit to being a founding member, one of which was that Gordon also raised shrimp here on the shrimp pond. He put them in the spring, harvest them in the fall, and he would send them to all the founding members. So that wasn't a bad return for your 300 cats. The other benefit was actually worked out was that as a founding member, you got a little override on the future sales of the lots, and as it turned out, the unfinished tapestry actually got finished. The golf club, the river house, the fitness center, the art barn, the fancy stables, all that came together. And with it came a community of wonderful people. And so for the first 10 years, we were just traveling back and forth. And our kids started coming, they loved it. Then our kids started coming, and they loved it. And it's been 35 years. The greatest part of our life. I mean, a huge part of it. And I think just final thought on all of this was, I would say everybody that I talked to about Spring Island, I've never met nicer people, made more great friends, and some of them have gone on, some are still here, and I make new friends every time I come down here. And it's just a wonderful community. People who come here don't always, what I'm really trying to say is people who come here because they have chosen to be here for the reason Spring Island stands for, which is community and living in harmony with nature in this beautiful place. And my everlasting gratitude and thanks go out to my dear, dear friends, Jim and Betsy, for putting this together.
the video that, you know, how important the founding members were. And Mitch, just thank you for that early belief in Spring Island for being a founding member, because without you, without Lucille, this would be a very, very different place. Now, our intent this evening was to give you a flavor and a sense of this island back in the 90s, and I think we owe a lot to this, these rambunctious